One mistake, one crash, one broken race car, an entire season hanging by a thread. After traveling thousands of miles with one goal, to stand on the podium, everything fell apart in a single corner. The car slammed into the wall. The rear frame was destroyed. The team had less than 14 hours to perform what seemed impossible. Then came the devastating news. The car would never race again that weekend. For most drivers, that would have been the end of the story. But quitting was never an option. What happened next shocked everyone at the track. A desperate search for another race car. A risky last-minute agreement. A driver climbing into a machine that wasn't even his. And one final chance to turn disaster into victory. Would this unbelievable gamble end with another crash, or would it become one of the greatest comeback stories ever seen on the racetrack? Stay with us, because this weekend had everything: speed, heartbreak, pressure, and a finish no one saw coming. Every racing driver dreams of standing on the podium. The roar of the crowd, the flashing cameras, the trophy held high above your head, those are the moments that make every sacrifice worthwhile. But behind every celebration lies a story of struggle, fear, and determination that most people never get to see. This weekend wasn't just another race. It was a chance to prove that months of preparation, endless practice sessions, and countless hours behind the wheel were finally paying off. The competition was filled with talented drivers, experienced racers, and powerful machines, all fighting for the same goal. As the team arrived at the circuit, excitement mixed with nervous energy. Every mechanic was focused. Every engineer checked the data one more time. Every driver knew there was no room for mistakes. The track itself was one of the biggest challenges. Every corner demanded precision. Every braking zone tested confidence. A single error could cost precious tenths of a second, or destroy an entire race weekend. Before the first session even began, the pressure was already building. Inside the helmet, the driver's heartbeat grew faster. Deep breaths replaced nervous thoughts. The only thing that mattered now was the next lap. The engine fired to life with a thunderous roar. The vibration traveled through the entire car as it rolled toward pit exit. Hundreds of spectators watched from the grandstands, waiting to see who would rise to the challenge. The first lap wasn't about setting the fastest time. It was about understanding the grip, learning the racing line, and feeling how the car reacted through every corner. Lap after lap, confidence started to grow. The steering became smoother. The braking points became more precise. The racing line became almost perfect. Each completed lap brought the driver closer to the limit. Then came the first competitive run. Everyone in the garage fell silent. Engineers stared at their timing screens. Mechanics watched every sector. Friends and family held their breath. The driver pushed harder than ever before. Every corner was attacked with confidence. Every straight was driven flat out. The stopwatch stopped. The result was impressive. Fast enough to prove they belonged with the best. But not yet fast enough for victory. The journey to the podium had only just begun, and no one could have imagined how dramatically everything was about to change. The qualifying session finally arrived. This was the moment everyone had been preparing for. Every driver knew that one perfect lap could change the entire weekend. There would be no second chances. No excuses. Just one opportunity to prove who deserved to fight at the front. As the green flag waved, the race car accelerated out of the pit lane. The tires were carefully warmed up, the brakes reached the perfect temperature, and the driver focused on every detail. "Stay calm," the race engineer said over the radio. "Build confidence first. Then push." The first flying lap was clean but cautious. It was enough to place the team in the top positions, but everyone knew there was still more speed hidden inside the car. The second lap began. The driver attacked every corner with greater confidence. The steering inputs became smoother. The braking was later. The exits were faster. Every fraction of a second mattered. Crossing the finish line, everyone looked at the timing screen. Third place. A smile appeared inside the helmet. The lap was good, but not good enough. We're only a few tenths away, the engineer said. You can find the time. Determined to improve, the driver prepared for one final attempt. The tires were at their peak. The engine was delivering maximum power. Everything depended on this single lap. Sector 1. Personal best. Sector 2. Even faster. The podium was within reach. The driver pushed harder through the next series of corners, carrying incredible speed while staying just inches from the edge of the track. Every movement had to be perfect. Every braking point had to be exact. One tiny mistake would erase the entire lap. As the car blasted onto the final straight, hope filled the garage. The finish line flashed beneath the car. Everyone waited for the result. Then the timing screen updated. The lap was quicker, but it still wasn't enough. Only half a second separated the team from a podium position. The disappointment was impossible to hide. After coming so close, missing the podium by such a small margin felt heartbreaking. Still, the weekend wasn't over. There were more sessions ahead, another circuit to conquer, and another opportunity to fight for redemption. No one realized that the biggest challenge wasn't waiting on the stopwatch. It was waiting in the next race. The next stop on the calendar was one of the most legendary race tracks in North America, WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in Monterey, California. Known for its unforgiving layout and world-famous corkscrew, Laguna Seca has challenged some of the greatest drivers in motorsport history. The circuit isn't just about speed, it's about precision, patience, and absolute confidence. Every corner flows into the next, meaning one small mistake can ruin an entire lap. As the team unloaded the car in the paddock, the atmosphere felt different. There was excitement, but there was also pressure. After missing the podium in the previous event, everyone wanted redemption. The driver walked the circuit before the first practice session, carefully studying every braking marker, every curb, and every elevation change. Standing at the top of the corkscrew, it looked almost impossible. The track suddenly disappeared downhill, creating a blind left-right combination that demanded complete trust in both the car and the driver's instincts. Respect the track, the engineer reminded him. Laguna Seca rewards smooth drivers and punishes aggressive ones. When practice began, the engine roared to life, echoing through the California hills. The first few laps were all about building confidence. The tires gradually reached their ideal temperature, and with every lap, the driver became more comfortable. The lap times immediately showed promise. P4. Then P3. Each session brought noticeable improvement. The team could see it in the data, and the driver could feel it behind the wheel. The braking points were becoming more precise, the racing line cleaner, and the exits much faster. By the afternoon session, something incredible happened. The timing monitor flashed. P2. The garage erupted with smiles. For the first time all weekend, the team truly believed a podium was within reach. The driver wasn't just keeping up with the fastest competitors, he was challenging them. Confidence was growing with every lap. But motorsport has a cruel way of reminding drivers that success can disappear in an instant. One corner, one tiny mistake, And everything can change forever. The most difficult part of the weekend was still waiting just around the corner. By the start of the next practice session, everything seemed to be falling into place. The team had finally found the perfect setup. Tire temperatures were consistent, the suspension felt balanced, and the car responded exactly the way the driver wanted. Every adjustment made by the engineers was paying off. The confidence inside the garage was growing. "You're looking really strong," the race engineer said over the radio. "Keep driving smoothly. Don't over-push." The driver nodded and accelerated onto the circuit once again. The first lap was clean. The second lap was even faster. As each sector lit up in green on the timing screen, the crew could hardly believe what they were seeing. The car was gaining time in every corner. The driver attacked turn 1 with confidence, clipped the apex perfectly, and powered onto the next straight. Through the fast sweeping corners, the car remained stable and balanced. Another fast lap. Another improvement. The timing monitor flashed P2 once again. The garage erupted in applause. "This is our weekend," one mechanic said with a smile. But racing has a way of testing drivers when they least expect it. The California sun continued to heat the track. With every lap, the tires became hotter. As tire pressure increased, grip slowly began to disappear. At first, the change was almost impossible to notice. The rear of the car moved slightly under acceleration. The front tires pushed a little wider in the corners. The steering no longer felt as sharp. The engineer immediately noticed the data. "Easy on the tires," he warned over the radio. "They're getting hot." Smooth inputs. The driver tried to adjust, but every lap demanded more speed. Every competitor was improving, and backing off wasn't an option. The pressure was building. The next lap had to be faster. Braking later. Accelerating earlier. Using every inch of the racetrack. The driver was now operating right on the limit. One tiny mistake. One wheel placed slightly off the racing line. One moment of lost grip. At a circuit as unforgiving as Laguna Seca, that was all it would take. Within seconds, the weekend that had looked so promising was about to change forever. The next flying lap was supposed to be the fastest of the weekend. Every corner before it had been nearly perfect. The timing screen showed the driver was improving again, and the team could hardly contain their excitement. If this pace continued, a podium finish was no longer just a dream, it was becoming a reality. "You're looking good," the race engineer said over the radio. "Keep it smooth. You're gaining time." The driver pushed forward with complete confidence. Turn 1. Perfect. Turn 2. Clean. The car felt planted as it raced through the fast corners, carrying incredible speed while staying inches from the edge of the track. Then came the most demanding section. The tires had completed several hard laps, and the track surface had become hotter than ever. Grip was fading with every passing second, but inside the cockpit, there was no time to think about it. The driver turned into the corner exactly as before. For a split second, everything felt normal. Then the rear tires suddenly lost grip. The car snapped sideways. Without warning, the steering wheel was turned instantly in an attempt to catch the slide, but the momentum was too great. The car spun across the racing line. Smoke poured from the tires. The world outside the windshield became a blur. There was nothing left to do. Bang! The car slammed hard into the wall. Silence. The engine stalled. Carbon fiber pieces scattered across the track as safety workers rushed toward the accident. Inside the cockpit, the driver took a deep breath. "Are you okay?" the engineer asked immediately over the radio. "I'm okay," the driver replied, still trying to process what had just happened. The crew reached the damaged car within moments. The right rear corner was destroyed. The quarter panel had folded into the door, trapping it shut. Mechanics tried to open it, but it wouldn't move. "We'll have to pry the door open," one crew member shouted. Using a metal pry bar, they carefully bent the damaged bodywork just enough for the driver to climb out. As the helmet came off, disappointment filled the driver's face. The crash wasn't just the end of a practice session. It could be the end of the entire race weekend. Back in the garage, the mechanics surrounded the damaged car in complete silence. They all feared the same thing. The damage looked far worse than anyone had hoped. The damaged race car slowly rolled back into the garage. What had been one of the fastest cars on the track just an hour earlier now sat covered in dust, tire marks, and broken carbon fiber. The garage, once filled with excitement, had become completely silent. The driver didn't waste a second. Instead of blaming the car or making excuses, he walked straight to the engineers. "Let's review the data," he said. "Show me where I made the mistake. I still want to fight for the podium tomorrow." That attitude impressed everyone on the team. While the driver and engineers studied the onboard footage, the mechanics carefully removed damaged body panels and inspected the chassis. The deeper they looked, the worse the situation became. One mechanic shook his head. Another called the chief engineer over. Everyone knew something was wrong. Finally, the team manager gathered everyone together. His expression said everything before he even spoke. "Unfortunately," he began quietly, "the rear frame is broken." The words hit the garage like a shockwave. A broken rear frame wasn't a simple repair. It meant the entire rear section of the race car had to be removed. The suspension had to come off. The transmission had to be disconnected. Even the engine would need to be taken out before a replacement frame could be installed. The mechanics immediately started calculating the work ahead. Hours passed as they examined every possibility. Could they repair it overnight? Could they replace the damaged parts before morning? The answer was heartbreaking. "There just isn't enough time," the chief mechanic finally admitted. "We would need far more than the 14 hours we have before tomorrow's race." Silence filled the room. Months of preparation, thousands of miles of travel, countless hours of practice, all of it seemed to disappear in a single moment. The driver looked at the damaged car one last time. Just hours earlier, it had been running in P2, faster than almost everyone on the circuit. Now it wouldn't even make it to the starting grid. For most teams, this would have been the end of the weekend. The truck would be loaded. The equipment packed away. Everyone would go home disappointed. But this team refused to surrender. Someone looked across the paddock at the dozens of race cars parked nearby. Then a simple